A trade that still feels impossible to defend. A rising contender, a young core loaded with star power, and a front office decision that altered the league for years. What looked like a money move in the moment turned into one of the clearest examples of a franchise letting greatness walk out the door. Welcome to the Trade Rewind. Let's get into it.
All right. We've got an NBA trade for you guys today. I think you're going to like this one. It's more recent, more our time. And I think these more recent ones, we have stronger feelings about them. So, but this one, you know, it's one of the ones that I don't think we're even going to have a debate. This is just a terrible trade, which is, I love bringing up these ones too.
Yeah, we've had a bunch like that.
Yeah. And this one, the story isn't completely written, but it's written.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see you'll know pretty quick, I think, but this was not a good trade. All right, so this guy, he was born August 26, 1989 in Los Angeles. He grew up in the Lakewood, Compton area, was raised mostly by his mother. His father struggled with drug addiction and was in and out of jail. He was extremely shy as a kid and actually had a speech impediment. He had a stutter. Teachers said that basketball became the one place that he could speak confidently. Teammates often said that he never looked rattled on the court. He had this smooth game that you couldn't really rattle him. He went to Artesia High School in Lakewood, and by senior year, he was dominant. 33 points a game, led them to a 33-1 record, and won California's Mr. Basketball. But even then, he still wasn't, regarded as a future NBA superstar. He was ranked outside the top 20 in national rankings, and he ended up going to ASU, Arizona State University. He chose to stay close to home. Played 2 seasons, so it wasn't a one and done. By his second season, he was Pac-10 Player of the Year, averaged 20 points per game, and led ASU to NCAA tournament. Scouts were fascinated by this guy's style. He wasn't the most explosive. He was crafty. He was shifty, deceptive, hesitation moves, and that would became, later signature part of his style. Do you know who we're talking about yet?
I have a guess. Is it a lefty?
It is a lefty.
So then I do know. Should we tell everyone?
Yeah, let's
James Harden?
James Harden, absolutely.
It's funny when you first were saying what's it called? Compton.
You're thinking DeRozan?
No, I was thinking Dame.
Dame? He's Oakland.
He's Oakland.
Compton, I think, is DeRozan. But
okay, interesting.
But yeah, it was interesting watching. I was looking at some of the old film of Harden, seeing him in college without the beard is weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird looking guy without the beard. So this guy, he gets drafted 2009. He gets drafted 3rd overall to the Thunder. He joined one of the most exciting young cores ever. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, James Harden.
Yep.
Well, by 2012, they looked like a dynasty. They went 47-19. That was a lockout year, so there wasn't 82 games. They won the Western Conference and made the finals. On the road to the finals, they beat the Dallas Mavericks, who were the reigning champs. They beat the Lakers, who had won 2 of their champs a few years before that, and the Spurs, who were champs. They beat 3 previous champions on the way to the finals, and then they lost to Miami Heat and LeBron and the Heatles.
Yeah.
And LeBron's first ring.
I remember watching that series and them just because it's funny, like you're saying, they beat all these people along the way, but they did not.
That series wasn't close. It was a 4-1 gentleman's sweep, if I'm not mistaken. And the final game, the Heat were on the bench for the last 10 minutes. They were up 20.
Yeah.
They were celebrating for a while. Harden's role on that team, he was the 6th man of the year that year, averaging 16.8 points per game. He was an elite playmaker, scorer off the bench. And many even believed he might have been the best creator on that team. Durant was a scorer and Westbrook was freak athlete and a scorer, but creator, people thought Harden might have been the best one.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Rockets were in NBA purgatory. After having Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady, they were like a 9 seed every year. You're not bad enough to get a great pick, not good enough to make the playoffs. They were just kind of in the middle.
Right.
And Daryl Morey was aggressive, and he wanted to acquire assets and acquire a superstar. And they tried to trade for Chris Paul. Didn't work out. Tried to trade for Pau Gasol. Didn't work out. Tried to trade for Dwight Howard. Didn't work out. Eventually, they couldn't get a trade. Eventually, they got 2 of those guys. But different era when they weren't the same players. Suddenly, James Harden becomes available. Why was James Harden available? This is where it gets interesting. And this is, at the time we knew, but it's crazy looking back. The issue is money. The Thunder already paid max contracts to Durant, Westbrook, and Ibaka. The owner, Clay Bennett, did not want to pay the luxury tax. They offered Harden 4 years, $54 million. Harden wanted 60. $6 million difference over 4 years is the reason why Harden didn't end up staying. That's $1.5 million a year. That's nothing for NBA guys.
Yeah, but it's always something for
Always.
Yeah. No, it is something because I mean, at the end of the day, he's looking around the room. Where's my money, right? Everyone else
We
got
just
their
made the
max.
finals. I was a very important player, 6th man of the year.
Yeah.
Where's my money?
And why isn't everyone else saying, I don't, is everyone else raising their hand? Right? Or Durant, they're all like, oh, you know what? I'll take $500,000 less. Let me restructure so that we can give James the extra.
The most interesting one to me is Ibaka. Like they paid Ibaka max and you couldn't figure out how to like something with Ibaka. I would if you're going to trade any of them, you're trading Harden, why not Ibaka?
Well, that's all hindsight, obviously.
It's true because at the time people thought Ibaka was going to become a big time player, and he was a good player at that point. So apparently Sam Presti gave Harden an ultimatum and said, "Sign our extension that night, or we're trading you." Within hours, deal to Houston done. Several Thunder players reportedly found out Harden was traded while they were on the team plane.
That's a common theme to these.
Durant later said the locker room was shocked. Obviously, the trade happens October 27th, 2012. This is right before the season starts. I think that season started late as well, right? That was the year after, they might have started late that season.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It was right before the season started. The Rockets receive James Harden, Cole Aldrich, Daquan Cook, and Lazar Hayward. OKC receives Kevin Martin, Jeremy Lamb, Damari Carroll, 2 first-round picks, and a second-round pick. The 2 first-round picks became Steven Adams and Mitch McGary.
Okay.
Adams became, an all-time center for them. He played a bunch of years there.
Yeah.
McGary was out of the league pretty quick, only played 50 career games. And Alex Abrinas was, a fan favorite for OKC, but was never really such an important player. Played there a few years. Immediately after the trade happens, I'm pretty sure about a week before the NBA season starts. Game 1 of the season, Harden's barely practiced with the Rockets. Puts up 37 points, 12 assists. Followed up in Game 2 with 45 points. The Rockets immediately realized they didn't trade for a role player. They got an MVP. They got a superstar. Harden's Rockets career, he became one of the best offensive players ever. He wins a 2018 MVP, 3 scoring titles, multiple seasons averaging over 30 points per game. Leads the Rockets to the 2018 Western Conference Finals, and he was the team that almost beat the Dynasty Warriors with KD. They took them to 7. That team that no one had a chance against, they took them to 7, and we were close.
Yeah, they were the closest to ever beating those Warriors.
And right, the Warriors that make the finals and sweep the Cavs easily.
No, they were. I mean, it's not even a discussion.
If you put that team in almost any other time, they probably win a ring. But they were against the the GOAT Warriors right there.
That's how it goes. You got to beat the best to be the
best.
best.
So OKC, they win 60 games in 2013. They lose in the playoffs after Westbrook gets injured. I think he tore his ACL. That's the Pat Beverly play. 2016, we reached the Western Conference Finals and then blow a 3-1 lead to the Warriors. Soon after, KD leaves, and then Westbrook goes on to win MVP on the Thunder, and then he leaves.
Right.
Kevin Martin had one good season for OKC. His career was kind of winding down. Jeremy Lamb was a young guy who was expected to become a big time player.
UConn guy?
Yep, won a national championship UConn. Developed slowly, became a solid rotation player for a couple of years, and then moved on. Damari Carroll actually, after leaving OKC, became a valuable 3-and-D guy, but not on OKC. He never really did much on OKC.
Yeah.
Daquan Cook and Lazar Hayward did nothing in the NBA. So really, this trade turned Houston into like they built a contender, and OKC for the next couple of years were a contender, but this was kind of the beginning of the end for OKC.
Yeah, and if people just so you understand how drastic this was, on the Thunder the year before he got traded, James Harden, he was averaging 16.8 points per game. The next season, up to 26 points per game. Talking about a 9-point swing in one season. Assists, he was up 2 full assists. Rebound stayed steady. But this was, I mean, like you were saying, this was a full, like, he went from being a sixth man of the year to literally being an MVP and ultimately winning the MVP and being top 10 in MVP voting his entire Houston career. So, and making all-stars every single season on Houston, and NBA first team, 75% of his seasons on Houston.
I mean, he went on to be a Hall of Famer in Houston.
Yeah.
I wonder, it's a good question. Like, do you think in the long run, is he happier they got traded? And because he got traded, he became the guy and he blew up. But if he stayed, maybe he would have won.
Yeah,
It's an interesting thought. Like, would you rather like stay in your role and win, or would you rather go be the guy and get your numbers?
I would always rather stay in my role and win, but I have a feeling that he would rather get that extra $4.5 million a year than win the finals.
Well, I mean, but that turned into him getting 2 more max deals and now making hundreds of millions.
Right, exactly, which is right, fine. So that's fair. But I mean, I'm not a big James Harden fan.
At that time, though, he was beloved, and
I didn't like him on Houston even.
But I'm saying on the Thunder, people loved him as
Yeah,
a six
he has the
man,
beard, he has a whole bit,
and he was a young
whatever.
guy. He was 23 years old, just made the finals. Like, the only thing I'm looking back, the only thing I compared to this, and very similar players, Luka. And Luka was the main guy, so it's different. But a young superstar, and that's what Harden was. They might have not known that, but he was. And it's funny because they're both the same player. They're very similar styles. They don't really defend, a lot of step backs. But it's crazy to me. Here, I've got some of the reactions around the league at the time. First of all, Kevin Durant was furious. Westbrook was shocked. Harden said he was mad as hell. And the Durant later admitted that the breakup like hurt the team emotionally. It hurt the locker room.
Right.
Now let's talk about people around the league. This is the part I found maybe the funniest of all. Right when it happened, stars like Dwayne Wade and LeBron tweeted congrats to Harden. They were like, "Oh, congrats! Like you get your own team now." Like really, they were just so happy he was off that team,
Right.
because they knew what was coming.
Like, we don't want to deal with that.
Yeah,
However many-headed monster.
they joked later like they're like, "Good, we don't have to deal with those guys anymore."
So what did Westbrook have over him? He just got there a year earlier, basically?
Westbrook was already an all-star, and people forget this because now it's like he had a rough end to his career. But at that point, he was considered maybe the best point guard in the league, most explosive guy in the league.
He was awesome, but he couldn't shoot ever.
At that point, he was a good mid-range pull-up shooter.
Right,
And
cared about
remember, three-point shooting didn't happen until a couple years later.
right.
They thought he was like the next D Rose, Westbrook.
Yeah.
And by the way, he won an MVP there. Like he did have good seasons. At the time, many executives were confused. They didn't even know Harden was available. And they couldn't believe that the Rockets were the only team who even got the opportunity to make this move.
That's always, I mean, that is such a unimaginably common theme. And I mean, the people on social media, again, were trying to explain this to me, and I don't really understand it. They were saying, oh, well, they lose value the second that you put them on the block because then the teams know that you want to get rid of them. But we've seen plenty of examples where that wasn't the case, right? We were just talking about Melo last week, and everyone knew he was on the block, and they still were able to extract maximum value because you make a bidding war.
Yep. KD to the Suns, they got all they wanted.
Right, we've seen that happen plenty of times where a player's on the block and they still get everything they wanted. And the Bucks just made the decision not to trade Giannis just to prove like we're not going to just do a deal for nothing. So I really don't understand it still, but whatever.
Right, and GMs around the league said they should have waited until the trade deadline or to sign and trade. Like they should have, or simply just and the real answer, they should have paid the luxury tax.
Yeah, I mean that is like I just saw an interview with Josh Allen from very recently, a couple days ago, and he was saying on this interview, someone asked him like, Why didn't Dak Prescott gets paid $60 million a year. You only are getting $55 million a year. Why didn't you chase that like highest paid number? Josh Allen was like, what are $5 million? Like, I don't want to sound like a jerk or anything, but like, how are $5 million extra dollars going to improve my life?
Right.
Like $5 million to me a year does not improve my life at all. 0%. And I mean, obviously you can make this argument like for like on and on, like does $30 million really improve his life? Hard to
Once you have a
imagine.
certain amount of money, like the couple mil doesn't change anything.
Right. So that's what he was saying. He was like, listen, it's not gonna make my life any better. If it's gonna help the team out and give them a little bit more flexibility, then like why would I not want to do that? Brady, obviously, which he's an outlier because his wife was a crazy
Yeah.
millionaire,
Millionaire, yeah.
or whatever. So he obviously was in a different spot. But
I mean, I feel this way specifically about LeBron. Like the last couple of years, why hasn't he taken a cheaper contract? He says he wants to win a ring. Take the cheap deal. He's still getting paid 50 mil at 40. Like you couldn't take 20 mil to get another star on your team. So
it's an ego thing, right? For these guys.
100%. And it's less of an, you could say it's an ego. It's also a respect thing. As in, like, that guy's getting that. Like, I'm worth that. Like, show me that you respect me by paying me what I'm worth. There is an ego involved, but there was also like Steph Curry was underpaid for so long that when he became free, like when he got up to like his available to, get a max, you got to pay him everything because he's been, he's worth all of it.
Right. That I can understand more. But at some point in your career, like let's say theoretically you're 42 years old and you've been getting paid max contracts for your entire
And
career.
already broke $1 billion.
Right. You've made more money than anyone else in NBA history. At some point, the team says, listen, we respect you and we're willing to give you $65 million a year. Maybe you come back and you say, I appreciate that. I do. I'm honored that you respect me that much, but I actually want to win this year. And I'm just, do whatever's best for you. Like, for example, when Brady went to Tampa, that's when we were seeing the like Brady wants his respect.
Yeah.
His respect wasn't, oh, I should be the highest paid quarterback. It was like,
Right, it was reasonable.
right. Or like Rodgers, we just saw on the Steelers. He said, give me $20 million a year. Quarterbacks are getting paid 50, 60
Right,
million
he asked
a
for
year.
50.
Right. Just give me like a respectable amount of money. So if LeBron comes in and says, oh, you know what? Just give me $20 million this year, which I mean, for us, obviously is an insane amount of money to even comprehend. That gives them an extra like $45 million to spend on players.
Right, and especially LeBron, where they gave him the most they could give him, and they're paying Bronny. Like, come on, take less. I will tell you this. A lot of people believe LeBron after this season is going to leave and go like chase one more ring. If he doesn't take a cheap deal with one of the teams, if he goes in and wants big money and gets it, I'm going to be really like, that will be the last straw. Like, you got to take a team friendly deal. All right, but back to Harden.
Yeah, sorry, I got a sidetrack.
No, in a good way. I like to get annoyed about LeBron taking too much money also. I highlighted some of the reactions of ESPN guys at the time, and you gotta give some guys their flowers when they're right.
Yep.
Bill Simmons was one of the loudest critics. He said, you just broke up a dynasty over a few $1 million. And he argued at that point, 2012, he said that they had 3 future MVPs on their roster and should have kept them together at all costs.
Good for Bill. I mean, we dragged you through the mud, Bill, on your Celtics take. So we're just respect to Bill Simmons.
No,
for this one.
Celtics, he was right too. He said he was happy the Celtics moved on.
No, he was not.
Oh, you're right.
He tweeted, "This is the stupidest thing. You're getting the penny on the dollar or whatever." So sorry to bring that up again.
But now we're giving you your
flowers, your respect. All right,
and he still calls it one of the worst financial decisions in modern NBA history, and he's completely right.
Yep.
Stephen A was similar. He said they're being too cheap. Championship windows are rare, and I agree. I think the only one who was like Michael Wilbon was kind of like, hey, the Thunder, small market, they don't have enough to pay the luxury tax. My thought is just, I don't understand at the time why they just didn't think about Ibaka. If you're like, we need to pay 3 of these guys, who are you picking? And I know hindsight's 2020, but Harden was the 3rd best player on the team. Everyone knew that. It wasn't like, even though he was 6 man, he was averaging 3rd most points. People thought he might have been the best creator on the team. Why not look to move someone else to create the $6 million? Why would you move Harden?
Well, was was it too like they already signed everyone else, right?
But Ibaka, you could trade him.
Like they didn't realize how good Harden was until after that season, basically. And then, right, you could trade Ibaka. My guess is they were looking at it like, all right, we have a point guard in Russ. We have one of the best forwards, second or first best small forward in the NBA in Durant. We need a big, so let's keep the big instead of just adding another guard, another guy who has to have the ball in his hands. Like to me, honestly, it's a little bit. eh, I'm not sure how the offense would have run with Harden and Westbrook on the floor at the
Well,
same
so
time. That seems a little
you're
complicated.
making a good point.
And it didn't go well for them when it was the two of them.
So you're making a good point, and
Houston-
that was one of the narratives is there's only one ball. There's three guys, one ball. Maybe it can't work. But what's interesting is there was a little bit of a civil war inside the Thunder. Some of their analytics guys and some of their guys believed that even then that Harden would end up better than Westbrook, and they were pushing to trade Westbrook.
Right.
They didn't end up doing it, obviously. And if you think back, if Harden, let's say they trade Westbrook and keep Harden and Durant might have won.
Yeah. Although we saw Harden and Durant a bunch of years later. It didn't
They weren't
work
the
out.
same. They weren't the same.
Obviously not, but
yeah, it's just mind blowing. And now, by the way, you think about it, 4 years, 60 million. That's like a role player. That's not even a big time player.
yeah.
And at that time, and it's so funny because if let's say they decide to pay him 3 years later, the salary cap blows up. Right, that's how the Warriors were able to even get KD because it was a like they would have been able to pay all those guys if they just paid him.
Yeah. Whatever. I mean, like, hindsight's always 2020.
There's another what if I saw where they were discussing trading Harden to the Warriors for Klay Thompson.
Wow.
And that is such an interesting move. And the Warriors, that was the no. They were trying to trade Harden to the Warriors, and that was the one piece. Like they're like, we're not giving up Klay.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to think about because can you imagine KD and Westbrook with Klay space in the court,
Right.
and then you have Harden and Curry. Like it's just interesting. Obviously, the Warriors worked out, but that would have been a great move for the Thunder.
Yeah.
All in all, though, like just thinking about it, we're talking about like a championship team, 3 guys who are young, who are all like gonna be superstars. You just made the finals, and then a week before the season, you trade your third guy, your big 3, your third guy, the big 3. It just doesn't make it's wild to think about, and it's wild that they didn't even let it go until mid-year and tried to like get more or figure it out.
And what was their thought process? They were just like,
So Presti says that he believed at the time he was getting the most you could get for him at that point.
and I'm curious because Presti, he's still the GM.
And he's a great GM. And
Right.
now, I mean, he's considered one of the best, and they've it worked out
So
in the long run. But
is he honest about this? Like he says that he messed up, or I'm curious what his thoughts are like nowadays.
probably doesn't talk about it much. And it's crazy because all 3 of them, like all 3 of them did become MVPs. None of them at the same time, like none of them on the same team when they were doing it.
Yeah.
But it's just mind boggling. And you look at, I mean, obviously we have a bunch of trades that we could do Harden for. Like Harden's been traded a bunch of times now,
Yeah.
but that was the first one, and that's like a domino effect. The league might be completely different if they signed Harden.
Yeah. What was that video that you sent me though? Sorry, I don't. I hate dragging players through the mud, but it was James Harden. You sent a video when he just got traded. It was some guy, and he was just going through his whole career and how he's always like this.
So
Like, he always takes the money.
But so that was after Harden left the Nets to go to Philly. And so this is Harden on team 6 already.
Right? I'm saying he like,
But at that point, he deserved the money. It's different than like him quitting on his team. They should have paid him.
right. You're saying is right.
This is the beginning of maybe the reason why he is who he is now and leaves is because the first team got rid of him.
Right. They tried trying to screw him, but then he got paid in the end. He got what he wanted.
He stayed for Houston for 10 years. I'm saying
Yeah.
he was there long enough. But that video is a famous video of the Cavs or one of these teams announcers just going off on Harden.
No, it wasn't that one. It was his most recent one. It was one of these talk shows. It was the Fox talk show.
It wasn't the guy saying like, if you keep breaking up with women, eventually it's you. Like it wasn't that one. There's one where it's like, James Harden, you're the problem. It wasn't that one.
I don't think so. No, it was right after he got traded
To the Cavs.
to the Cavs.
I love that trade, by the way.
How's it going? I haven't been following.
They've been playing good ball. I actually think he's the missing piece for them. Like, Garland was too small to be with Mitchell. They were two small guards that couldn't defend. It was a problem. And Garland couldn't stay healthy and wasn't a good enough creator. Now with Harden, all of a sudden, Jared Allen is unlocked because Harden, whatever you want to say about him, he makes every big he's near better. He made Zubats, right? He made him an all-star,
Yeah.
and then that guy gets a big deal. He made Clint Capella an all-star or a big-time player, gets him a big deal. Everywhere he's been, he's gotten bigs, like paid. So
Yeah.
I do think right now it's one of the few times I'm like, actually, you know what? That was a really good move. They bought low on him. I think it was the right move.
Maybe. Right. All of this depends on how good Garland actually is.
But
obviously.
Garland anyway didn't fit with them. So
Right, you're saying they had to get
it
rid of
wasn't
him.
working anyway. So I don't hate the move, this specific move. But yeah, it's mind-boggling to like go back and be like, this team was the youngest and up-and-coming team. And you just beat 3 former champs on the way to the finals. And you lost to LeBron in the Big Three, which is, 3 Hall of Famers and an unstoppable team.
Yeah.
And then you're going to, at that point, at 23 years old, you're going to get rid of him. And then he puts up 35 and 12 his first game and then 45 the next game. Like, you let a superstar out of your building.
Yeah. I mean, it's terrible.
For $6 million.
Yeah.
The Clippers are doing some fake shenanigans around behind the scenes to pay Kawhi $6 million more. You could have paid him $6 million more. It's just absurd to me. And looking back at it, like, and understanding that it was $6 million over 4 years, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, you have to keep in mind for the luxury tax, if that was the difference in them going over the luxury tax, I want to say it's 2 times that the owner is actually paying.
So even that $12 million, it's worth it.
Right. Not to say that it's not worth it.
And you know how the NBA works. You could have a signing bonus. Like, they have ways around the luxury tax. They have ways to, like, oh, we're going to sign and trade this guy to open up some space. Like, there's always ways to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they don't even, they're not even gonna, they can't pretend. They screwed up big time, obviously.
And I'm willing to say this. People might think I'm crazy. Part of KD leaving is he didn't like playing with Russ.
Yeah.
Harden is different. Harden likes passing.
I mean, he clearly enjoyed playing with Harden because he teamed up
And play with him again. It's just, if you, first there's the fact that you let him get out of the building. Second is the fact that you chose a point guard who can't shoot and relies on athleticism, which we know goes downhill. Like, if you were going to pick one of them, you could have traded Westbrook and gotten tons of pieces, and Harden would have become as good as Westbrook anyway. The whole trade is brutal. You don't make a move like that after making the finals. You don't rock the boat like that.
Yeah. I mean, the problem, like, as you're saying, is Westbrook was just more established. He got there a year earlier. He had already made 2 All-Stars to that point. So from a team's perspective, obviously it's your job. 100% it's on your scouting department. And like you're saying, it sounds like there were people in the scouting and analytics department that said, listen, this is the guy we want. Westbrook's coming off averaging 22 and 23 his last 2 seasons. More assists, around the same rebounds.
I don't really hold it against them that they kept Westbrook over Harden. The Ibaka part's mind-boggling, and just not keeping all of them is crazy. Like, pay the luxury, figure out a way.
Right
there.
To me, that's the issue. I mean, it's a little bit on Presti, obviously, for just like, it sounds like it was like a
Ego, maybe?
Yeah, or like a gut reaction.
You've told the end of the day to sign it? Like,
right. Like that's weird. I mean, maybe there's more behind the scenes that we don't know.
Harden apparently was like shocked. Like, he didn't really take that threat seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to know what's true whenever there's people, everyone has their handlers who's trying to make it look better for them. We see this theme a lot where, like, owners are not necessarily trying to win. Some owners' goal is just to win.
Some owners' goals is to compete the best we could, while me not having to pay like that much money.
Right.
The least possible I could pay while I was still like looking competitive.
Or another way to look at it is just maximize profit.
Right.
Right. So if that's how he's looking at it, and that's what he tells Presti, I guess. And he's like, listen, I don't care. I'm not willing to spend this much. I don't want to spend the extra $6 million. I don't think I'm going to recoup that, even if it's going to make my team better. Probably, right? If he's like, I'm going to lose money even if I have a better team, I don't know. It's clearly a horrible decision on Presti's part, on the owner's part. I mean, thank God that Presti has recovered now. The Thunder obviously won the last finals. They have a roster that's one of the most beautifully constructed rosters we've ever seen.
Right. And what you could say about Presti is he drafted Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. So he hit on all these guys.
Right. And he's continued to hit.
And he's a great GM. But this is one of his big what ifs.
Yeah.
And this is one of his, and even the great ones sometimes think too much or over, like he might have been like, let me get rid of him early before it becomes a problem. And he was just wrong.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is I wonder if him keeping his job is good evidence that a lot of this was on the owner.
It's interesting because it could be behind the scenes, Presti was like, I don't want to trade him. I want, pay the money. And the owner's like, no.
And ultimately, you do whatever the owner tells you. At the end of the day, that's what you got to do. If the owner's not willing to pay it, the owner's not willing to pay it. So I'm curious because we've seen if a GM screws up big time and the owners, sometimes even if it was the owner's decision, they get fired. It's interesting they didn't fire him for this,
right?
Because it looked like we knew it was a terrible move for years and years.
I guess because they were still really good,
right? They weren't winning,
but they made the Western Conference Finals. They were still making runs.
Yeah.
Right. KD's, still an MVP candidate. They're still a really good team.
Right.
What's crazy is that the Rockets were in rebuilding mode at that point, and this trade basically skipped 5 years of rebuilding. It made them from stinking to we can start building,
Yeah. It honestly kind of makes me think about Shea coming to the Thunder.
It's very similar.
You just instantly you're like, oh, I did
well, they weren't good for the first year or two when Shea was there. The first year they weren't good, but
you didn't realize what you got until he got there.
And it was 5 picks and Shea. That was we're gonna do that in 5 years from now, 10 years from now when we see how many rings they end up winning because of this trade. But that will go down as one of the biggest ripoffs of all time, one of the greatest trades by Presti. So he's been on the right end of it.
Yeah.
But this is one where it's just when you look back, it's how?
Yeah, this one is really, I guess the only thing for me is, and we'll get to this in the grades, ultimately what it comes down to is what would they have done if they kept him? They paid the extra $6 million, whatever it was. How good would they have actually been?
You can never know.
You can never know, but that ultimately is what the grade is.
To me, they would have been so good. They for sure would have won.
Yeah, it's funny. You think they 100% win a finals?
Harden ended up being the best scorer out of all 3 of those guys, possibly. None of those guys were scoring 35. He scored 35 a game for a year. This guy became unguardable. And he might have not reached the heights he did if he stayed there, obviously, because look, he was averaging 16 a game with the Thunder. Then he leaves, he's averaging 25. So obviously he became a different player because of getting more opportunity. But having those 3 together, and then Westbrook, when Westbrook gets hurt, you still have Harden. All this stuff, it completely changes the whole story of the NBA. Who knows if the Warriors dynasty happens? KD probably doesn't leave.
Right.
It's a completely different situation.
It is an alternate universe, obviously.
In an alternate universe where he stays, I think KD ends up winning 1 or 2 at OKC and being their all-time best player.
Right.
And being universally loved. KD's whole life might be different if Harden doesn't get traded.
Right. My only problem with all of this is that we know that the personalities there were a disaster.
But my belief is that Westbrook was the one. He's the difficult one to play with. He's the one who's not a great passer. Durant could play with anyone because he could score from any spot. He doesn't need a dribble. He can score. He can play in any system. As we've seen, he's been around everywhere he goes. He could score.
I know, but we've also seen him constantly force his way out of places.
Sure, but never because of style of play. He can score anywhere.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying personality matters a lot. That's why we haven't seen Durant have any success besides
Durant's problem with Westbrook was never vibes. It was the way he played. They couldn't play together because Westbrook needed the ball and is not creative for others.
So you're saying eventually they would have just had to dump Westbrook, basically.
Maybe, yes. And Westbrook would have gotten probably more than Harden because he was already solidified as an all-star. Like, you traded Harden at his low, you could have traded Westbrook at his high. It's just
Right, like, they might have realized 1 year later, if Harden was anywhere
I
if you
think they
even if it was 7 points better a game, but the Thunder realized in their front office, they were like, "Okay, Harden's the guy," and they
by
traded
the way,
Westbrook.
maybe if Harden's there, KD doesn't get so frustrated with Westbrook because there's another guy.
Yeah,
But him being it's like just him and Westbrook, and we're the guys, and we have to carry for years. They did it for 8 years, like, it started to wear on him. But maybe Harden being there and taking some of that off their shoulders, who knows what it would it's obviously, alternate universe stuff, but I think their career all 3 of their careers would be way different. The only one who might have been hurt by it is, like, Harden might have not become the
right.
MVP, but I think they would have won.
Yeah, or he would have been MVP at least. I mean,
I'm saying if you think about those 3, they were all even, like, Durant might have been, like, just in his prime. Westbrook and Harden were still pre-prime. They would
yeah,
have grown together. This team could have been unstoppable.
yeah. It's obviously, it's always impossible to know. I
But
don't
when you have
know.
them in your building, they had the Heat big 3. They had a big 3 in their building, and they let it go.
Yeah. The problem for me is just, like I'm saying, is the personalities. Like, we haven't seen these guys ever been
But
able to break through and
but
win a
this is that's where
championship.
the hindsight is, and they're older. When they're younger, it's not the same because younger guys listen to their coaches. It's a little different, and you're growing
Yeah.
up together. When you're a 32-year-old two-time MVP and you've already made hundreds of millions,
Right. The
then you're
ego.
like you can have attitude. But when you're 23, you don't really have that.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, all
And
right.
and really, it comes down to a measly $6 million. If you want to say 12, 12 like over 4
Whatever it
years is
is.
nothing.
The owners, I understand it a little bit because especially if you just buy a team or you were inherited a team and you were like, you're not passionate about it. It was just a business. It was cool. Your friends are buying sports teams. You want to buy a sports team. You're super rich. It's a clout thing. Then yeah, like maybe you just don't care. You just don't care about winning, which makes sense. At the end of the day, these are businesses, right? Like we want to
Yeah.
say like, oh, it's a team, whatever. Like it's a business, Every
Yeah,
league
I don't know,
sports
but
is driven by money.
I think there's certain sports where it's mainly like baseball, you have some teams that they don't care because it's revenue share and it's like whatever. These are billionaires with big egos. They wanna win. Like, they're competing against, like, their peers, other owners. It's, like, a big deal to win.
Some of them, but some of them are just I mean, yeah, that's how you're defining winning. Some of them
For them,
might
it's just about the money, okay.
right, yeah. Let me just make however much money I can. Also, it's a risk, right? Everything's a risk reward. We know the most profitable NBA teams are the ones that win
Yeah,
constantly.
I mean, look at the Warriors, they went from, like, worth a few hundred million to billions after
Yeah,
their dynasty, and then they built a new stadium, and the owner bought all the real estate around the stadium, and then once they put the stadium there, it tripled in price. Like, they could when you're winning, you triple your profits.
yeah, but it's high risk. So
Yeah.
you look at a team like the Wizards, who I mean, recently they've been just the hot stinky doo doo,
Yeah.
but for years with Wall and Bradley Beal, you sneak in 8 seed. Maybe I break through. Maybe I make it to the second round. Maybe once in a while I'll break in, make it to the third round. You're making a lot of money by doing that. A
Yeah.
lot of money, a lot more money, maybe. I think that might be what makes you more money than just like
But the
if you can
truth
never break
is
through and win.
the truth is that the real money is not about the year-to-year money, it's your equity in the team. Like, because the team's value keeps going up. That's the way it works. Like, with the TV deals, it's always going up. So, in the short term, you might be losing a couple mil, but if you keep the teams are always going up. So,
Yeah.
that's where, like but I guess some owners don't have that liquidity where they might need might need the 30 mil that year. So, it is something, and the biggest thing that this is a common theme that a lot of the trades we looked back on and had problems with, the biggest problem with Presti is he didn't shop it. He didn't shop it. He could have taken 4 months and waited till trade deadline and shopped it for months and gotten an amazing package.
Right, and you don't even have to outwardly do it, you just take calls, whatever. This
Yeah.
is obviously our biggest gripe always,
Yeah,
anytime
shop
it's
it.
not
Shop it,
shopped,
get the best you can get.
it's mind-boggling. Alright, let's move into grades. I guess you presented, I'll go first. Is this bad? this is going to be up there with some of the worst ones we've seen, obviously. I don't know if I'm going to have it quite as high as you because I'm not convinced they would have won. Uh, I'm going to put it at an 8.3. That's where I'm sitting right here.
I think that's a good score. I'm higher because I'm furious about this. I think it's gonna break a 9. I think I'm gonna go 9.1. This is one of the worst trades you can make.
Okay, 9.1. For context, if you want, I have your scores up here.
Is that the highest I've given?
No, you gave Dirk a 9.2. You were really upset about Dirk.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And you gave the Nets Celtics a 9.1.
Okay, so I think this is as catastrophic as those. And it's not considered that. People don't talk about this trade the way they talk about that Nets Celtics trade. And I guess because
it's not as bad.
The only reason why it sounds bad is because it didn't bury their franchise. But it did build a franchise. It built Houston.
Yeah.
And it did be the beginning of their end.
Right. It's almost like on the bad scale, it's not as bad, which is what we use. But if it was on the good scale,
it's a really good trade. For Houston is an amazing trade.
Probably just as good for Houston as the Celtics trade was for the Celtics.
Yes, agreed.
Although the Celtics got a championship.
Houston, they got about as close as you could with those Warriors.
Yeah, but they didn't even make the finals.
True, but you got your all-time, maybe your franchise best player ever.
Yeah.
So even without finals, it was successful.
I'm sure the OGs would beg to differ.
Oh no, you know what?
Because you do
Olajuwon and
Drexler and
maybe not your all-time best, but one of your all-time best.
And guys who won championships and didn't push their way out.
Fine, if you want to say that, I'll give you that. But one of your all-time best players,
100%,
and a Hall of Famer,
100%. You know that if you on 2K they have the all-time teams, I'm sure
he's on it.
Sure, he's a starter.
Yes.
On the Houston Rockets all-time team,
for sure.
Yeah. All right, you got anything else?
No, that's it. I need to go cool down. I'm pissed off.
Yeah, always happens. All right, we will see you guys next week with an NFL one. Thank you for listening to The Trade Rewind. You can find us on social media at The Trade Rewind on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. If you enjoy listening to the show, the best thing you can do for us is to leave us a 5-star on Spotify and share the episode.